Your Honors, my name is Adam Wexler. I'm David Buadana. I'm Noah Bickle.
I'm Miriam Buadana.
We're all in secondary 4, and I'd like to begin. Honorable judges, we will prove to you that Jonathan Frankel is the one who is severely wronged. We will explain that the Snapchat does in fact fall under the Takana of Cherem de Rabbeinu Gershom. Therefore, he wasn't permitted to share this private information. Not only did Jonathan transgress the Cherem, but his actions were also considered a violation of Lashon Hara.
Does a Snapchat fall under the Takana of Cherem de Rabbeinu Gershom? To begin, let us define what the use of the app Snapchat really is. Snapchat is an app that allows users to send an image to recipients on a friends list for a maximum duration of 10 seconds. The picture then deletes itself. The goal of this software is to be able to send images that the recipient is unable to keep without the sender's knowledge. The reason we say without the sender's knowledge is because there's a possibility of taking a screenshot. However, if this occurs, the sender will receive a notification. Now, to answer the question previously mentioned, we must refer to the origins of the Takana. Avraham Grossman states that the origins of the ban date back to a time in Germany when Jewish merchants wrote letters to their partners containing private information. These letters were supposed to be kept confidential. However, since these merchants were in competition, there was so little stopping inquisitive readers from opening them. So, Rabbeinu Gershom, Me'or HaGolah, suggested that a ban be created in order to prevent people from reading and opening mail that is not addressed to them. Just like the merchants, Max and Elizabeth were in competition. They were both running for class president. The Snapchat sent by Max was a private message that was not intended to be shared, and therefore it does fall into the Takana.
Even if a Snapchat does fall under the Takana, Jonathan was not permitted to share this information under these circumstances. It may be assumed that Max intended for the picture to be destroyed because he used a software application specifically designed to cause the picture to be deleted. This is equivalent to asking the recipient of a letter to destroy it. Had Max intended for his friends to be able to preserve the picture, he would have sent it, shared it in a more conventional way. We learn from the book of Sefer Vayikra that there were times when God wanted Moses to transmit the information he told him to the tribes of Israel, and there were other times when he wanted certain matters to stay strictly between them. As it is written in Sefer Vayikra, Perek Aleph Pasuk Aleph, Vayikra el Moshe, Vaydaber Hashem elav me'oed moed lemor. This pasuk allows us to understand when it is appropriate for the listener to repeat information obtained from a speaker. Since Max did not tell Jonathan to pass on the information to Dr. Davis, he violated the rule in the Torah that prohibits the repeating of information. It is forbidden to read a letter sent from one to another without their consent, unless it is in the trash. However, a Snapchat deleted after 10 seconds is not like a letter in the trash, because the picture is gone forever, as if it was burned. Taking a screenshot is like keeping a copy of the letter, which Jonathan was not permitted to share. This proves that when Jonathan shared the screenshot, he violated the rule against destroying the letter. Therefore, the information used from that letter should be considered sinful, no matter how good the intentions may be. It should also be noted that although Max was notified that John had taken a screenshot, and that Jonathan told Max that his actions were inappropriate, Jonathan never told Max that he planned to email Dr. Davis and pass on this information. Therefore, his actions violate the law in Be'er HaGolah, Yoreh De'ah, Perek 334, Pasuk 123. חרם שלא לראות בכתב חברו, ששולח לחברו בלא ידיעתו, אלא אם כן זכו. We can learn from this pasuk that it is forbidden to read another's letter without his or her knowledge. Jonathan's misdeed in sharing the private information are compounded by the fact that Max had not granted him permission to do so, nor was Max even aware that Jonathan was going to do such a thing.
According to Aruch HaShulchan, Yoreh De'ah, Shut Revavot Ephraim, it is permitted to read any open letter, such as a postcard, because the contents have not been hidden. These sources further prove that Jonathan was not allowed to share the information contained in the Snapchat because, as mentioned earlier, Snapchat is not like an open letter because of the way it is sent. Let us compare a Snapchat to a letter. The phone is the envelope, and to see the Snapchat, one must deliberately click on the app and tap the sender's name to open it. It is otherwise impossible to view the image. Therefore, it is not open content and does not apply to the conditions we have mentioned beforehand.
Was it a violation of Lashon Hara? Yes, Jonathan's actions were a violation of Lashon Hara. According to the Rambam, Lashon Hara is the spreading of negative facts about someone, even if true. Jonathan Frankel spread a fact about Elizabeth that can harm her and her human dignity. Therefore, according to the Rambam, this is Lashon Hara. Rav Huna explains that every statement that is said before 3 is not to be considered embarrassing language. This would allow anyone who heard Lashon Hara in the presence of at least 2 other people to repeat it, because the information would already be considered public. However, should someone really be allowed to get away with such a thing, particularly if he has the wrong intentions? If so, imagine how many rumors would be spread, one after the other, and without consequence. Fortunately, the Rambam prevented such sins from going unpunished. He added a simple condition. It will not be considered Lashon Hara only if the one who repeats it has good intentions. But if his intentions are to spread the matter further or to publicize it, then it is considered a violation of Lashon Hara. Now, were Jonathan's intentions entirely good? It is true that as the current class president, he claims to take the election very seriously. But what if Jonathan used the picture of Elizabeth as an excuse to send an email to Dr. Davis to get Max into trouble? Here are excerpts from Jonathan's email, a snapshot that I think is very inappropriate. I think that it's very inappropriate for someone to use campaigning to bully someone. I'm not sure if I believe Max about the number of people he sent it to, and I'm not sure if he'll stop doing things like this. And finally, I think this is really bad for student elections, and it needs to stop. Jonathan was trying to persuade Dr. Davis to punish Max by adding his own biased opinion to the email, rather than simply stating the facts of the situation. These statements prove Jonathan sought to spread the matter further. Not only did he commit Lashon Hara regarding Max, but he also helped spread Lashon Hara about Elizabeth. Additionally, Jonathan's actions made the issue become far more public. Following the suspension, people began talking about the incident, and Elizabeth found out about it as well. Furthermore, Max's suspension was on his permanent record. Therefore, not only did Jonathan publicly humiliate Elizabeth, but he also publicly humiliated Max to make himself feel better about doing the so-called right thing. According to the responsa Minchat Shlomo, the need to preserve human dignity can override a Torah prohibition. However, according to the Rambam, Lashon Hara is equivalent to 3 sins that prevent a person from going to heaven. Therefore, the Lashon Hara that Jonathan communicated about Max in order to save Elizabeth's human dignity was overruled by the law stated by the Rambam about the unforgivable sins. How can someone make himself feel better by destroying others?
Should Jonathan have shared this information in a different way? Based on what we have said before, the way Jonathan shared this private information was completely incorrect. His opinion revealed his true intentions, to alert an adult in order to get Max into trouble and ultimately cause him to lose the election. Had Jonathan really wanted to warn Dr. Davis about the situation, he should have sent her an email that objectively stated the facts without including any personal interpretation that might cause her to lean toward one outcome or another. Dr. Davis, head of school of Hebrew Academy, should be able to make her own judgment without the help of a student.
According to Jewish law, did Dr. Davis have the right to suspend Max based on utilizing the information from his Snapchat? Dr. Davis did not have the right to suspend Max based on the content from his Snapchat. Although she is the head of school, she still has an obligation to follow certain rules. There are 3 sources that can prove Dr. Davis's error. Firstly, the Shut Aselech Harav explained that Dr. Davis was permitted to read the letter for educational reasons, subject to the following condition: The letter will only be read by the teacher with a clear understanding that any information revealed is to be considered a secret that is forbidden to be revealed to any person. This proves that Dr. Davis was not permitted to suspend Max based on the content in the Snapchat. This is explained by the fact that the suspension revealed the content of the Snapchat to the entire school, causing emotional harm to both Max and Elizabeth. Secondly, the Shoot Mincha Shlomo states that it is better for a person to throw himself or herself in a fiery furnace rather than embarrass another. נוח לו לאדם שיפיל עצמו לחפשן האש ואל ילבין פני חברו ברבים. When Dr. Davis suspended Max, she publicly embarrassed him rather than keeping the matter confidential.
1 minute.
Lastly, according to Rabbi Eliav Shochman, another reason why Dr. Davis should not have suspended Max based on the Snapchat is that she does not understand the relationship between the sender and the receiver. Max and Jonathan have a relationship that Dr. Davis is not from. I don't know whether Max's intention was simply to joke around or to send a hurtful message. So when seeing the Snapchat, Dr. Davis could have misinterpreted the meaning of the image sent by Max and would lead to her making unfair decisions.
Halachically, Dr. Davis should have met with both students to discuss the incident after opening and reading the email. Both would have given their sides of the story, and she would have then decided how to proceed. She should not have allowed herself to be influenced by Jonathan's email. It is also important to remember that public humiliation is strictly forbidden. This should have remained a private matter, so as not to cause any harm to Max or Elizabeth. Dr. Davis's response to the issue was not the most halachically appropriate way to react. She twisted the knife in the wound by using incorrect judgment. To make our final statements, Your Honors, we would like to suggest that Dr. Davis and the faculty of Hebrew Academy revoked the demerit that was placed on Max Stein's permanent record. In addition, we would like to put forward the option to postpone the class elections because after causing such ruckus, the candidates deserve a fresh start. Although Max Stein did say some hurtful things over Snapchat, it was not he who had severely wronged. One screenshot, a violation of Rabbeinu Gershom's Takana, and an email filled with Lashon Hara was all it took Jonathan Frankel to destroy not one, but 2 reputations. Thank you.
Great presentation. I look forward to a near time in the future when you can represent me in court. I think you'll be able to fulfill that. It's expensive, yeah, that might be a problem. Okay, so my question is, I think you had very good arguments and very compelling arguments, but I'm still troubled by how you feel about Max and whether you feel that he was protected by the fact that it's just his own Snapchat. And keep in mind that he's, like yourselves, right? He's a student in high school. And, you know, when is somebody just protected from not just hurting somebody else, but when there's a teachable moment, either for a parent or for a teacher, to teach kids that this is an inappropriate act, regardless of what the, I guess, punishment was by the principal.
So we can assume that this hasn't happened before, and that Max had the intention of doing this as a joke. Of course, that doesn't mean it's right to do that. However, because it's a first-time thing, we feel that Dr. Davis should have handled the situation and spoken to both students, expressing her opinion on how the matter should have been handled differently, and express the severity to Max about how serious this issue is.
Thank you guys, great presentation.
I'm sorry, the PowerPoint didn't work.
The question I have for you is that I think it was Adam. Yes. You mentioned that the reason why it doesn't apply is because the Snapchat no longer exists. Once it's been seen after 10 seconds, it's disappeared and it's no longer available. And therefore, that was sort of, I'm paraphrasing your argument. But yet we do know that from technology that it actually does exist. And it was said earlier by one of the other groups that it is all these things are kept on servers, that if they have to be recalled later on for any legal reasons, they can be done so. So the argument that it no longer exists, how would you respond to that?
Well, that was an outside source, but what we're given from the facts of Snapchat inside the case is that the picture is deleted. So, and also to get that information, not anyone can get that. They have to access special. They have to request special permission from the Snapchat headquarters, which probably would not be granted to just kids like him.
Right, but it's still available. It's still available if need be. So it hasn't disappeared.
Yeah.
So today in our days, anything said on the internet basically is obviously kept. As to average human being, a student, let's say we receive a Snapchat after those 10 seconds, to us it is gone forever. We cannot retrieve it unless, of course, we go to the Snapchat headquarters and retrieve it from their server, but that is kind of difficult unless the matter is quite severe.
And the police and other authorities are the only ones who have access to the Snapchat headquarters and their images.
So we do agree that it does still exist.
Yes, but Jonathan...
We've seen that cases have been made in some of the Jewish sources that once something is said which is quite hurtful or goes in a direction where there are extenuating circumstances to reveal the private letter that has been written, that the disclosure of that letter is no longer bound by the harem. Why have you chosen to ignore those Jewish sources? This was a very hurtful image and message that was sent.
Okay, well, the Snapchat, it can be considered as a private letter, right? So he did not want to publicly embarrass Elizabeth, which is something that is very bad to do. We agree that John did Lashon Hara, but this case is that Max did Lashon Hara, but this case is to decide whoever is more wrong, whoever did the more wrong. As we stated before, Jonathan is the one who has severely wrong because he has transgressed the cherem, he did a violation of Lashon Hara, and he publicly embarrassed 2 students.
To add on to that, if Max's intentions were to publicly embarrass Elizabeth, he would not have sent that image through Snapchat, knowing that it is not retrievable. So if Max, as we can assume that Max's intentions were just to joke around with his 4 friends, because if his intention was to humiliate Elizabeth, he would have not used this social media.
So you believe that a painful embarrassment for only 10 seconds isn't considered a painful embarrassment?
Well, as we can see that when it is public, it is when it is before 3 people, right? So when you send a Snapchat, the other people don't know that they received it, so therefore they don't know that it's public. So you're not really publicly embarrassing them. Max did say something wrong, we agree with that. However, he did not make this public, and Jonathan is the one who's severely wrong. Thank you.